It is important to establish good communication with your child's school. Let them know if you need different formats for information or have access or communication needs. Talk to the Parent Support Advisor or your child's teacher if your situation could affect your child's well-being or education.
When I was recovering from having hip replacements, I wanted to be able to do what other mums done, and that's take their children to school. There was a disabled parking space in the school, but it wasn't accessible to me.
So instead of me going back to work, potentially I could have gone back to work. I had to prolong not going to work for an extra 6 months just so that I could drop our children off. We did have CAF meetings, Common Assessment Framework, and we found they were actually very useful.
Yeah.
So it was Sure Start who made these agencies come together, and we met at my son's school. So there was adult social services, child social services, 2 people from Sure Start, a health visitor, school nurse or somebody, another person from school. So we was able to communicate properly. Melanie felt supported because of this joined up approach. It did work for us, but again, it's a shame that we had to go through so many months and months to get to that position.
We started to get support when I went into hospital for one of my operations, and we were told, that there could possibly be help out there, but it seemed that every door we knocked on, there was no one in at the inn, and then eventually we were put in touch with the parent liaison officer through one of the schools, and then we had a CAF meeting because of the problems we were also having with my son, and he's also dyslexic, as well as having this, finding out that he's got this genetic condition, and then also with my daughter with her problem. So we had a big sort of multidisciplinary meeting, and that's then when the help sort of became available for us, in respect of things like my youngest daughter, because of her needs. At the time she was in sort of playgroup, and it was fine finding her, we could pay for the nursery sessions, but it was getting the funding to pay for her one-to-one worker that she needed. And then as a result of that, other things arrived on our doorstep, and such as sort of young carers for my son. In fact, a lot of help suddenly came forward, and it was almost like a tidal wave of help, so that it was suddenly an awful lot of, right, how does this fit in? Would that benefit my family? Wouldn't it? Would that be more effort than we gain from it? So it was sort of working out what was going to be useful and what was going to be kind of overkill.
My disabilities, because I'm not physical, involve a lot of communication problems. I struggle to communicate easily, and I struggle to assimilate what other people tell me. So I've really found that getting across to schools that access is not just a physical thing. It's not just about wide doorways and ramps, that some parents actually need to be communicated with differently. And one of my biggest things that I found works for me is contact books in school. I'm very grateful to my daughter's latest school. They have a brilliant contact book. I get a lot of detail on that on an average day. My daughter, especially with her own disabilities, doesn't always know to pass information on to me. And I can't always go in and chase a teacher for this, that and the other. So it makes it a lot easier when it's all written out. My daughter was not given the help she needed in mainstream school. The school fought against me at every turn they could come up with. In obtaining my daughter a diagnosis, they wanted to blame it on behavioural problems and the family setup and my disabilities. It was an incredibly traumatic time, if I'm honest. Obtaining her a statement was fought against heavily. They didn't see that my daughter needed the long-term input and consistency. Fortunately, I had a CAF in place with various professionals who were willing to fight. and I was willing to put a lot of input into the statement. I did a lot of work myself for it. My daughter at the moment is an assessment placement at a specialist unit for her autism. She is in a much smaller classroom with a large degree of individual support.
The school play, things like that, you know, they so want you to be there, and I so enjoyed them. But it's then realising that when I go to the school plays, I'm not just looking at what the children are doing, I'm listening to them singing. You know, I'm smelling if there's different scents around. And it was making sure that I got over to my son that, yes, I'm at the play, and no, I can't see you. And we both know that. But your singing was great. You know, it was really funny what somebody said. You know, I could hear when all the three wise men walked around the room, and I could pick up on different things. And it's great if you describe the costume you're wearing, because then in my mind I can picture it. So it's for me finding there are lots of other ways to enjoy and get the most out of things without just being able to see them.
In a time that my son was having problems, our saviour was our local parent support advisor, who we call a PSA. And with that, it got a lot of things moving, and we then he suggested that we ought to have something called a CAF, which is Common Assessment Framework, which means that you're all talking together, your school is talking to you, and you think, well, shouldn't the school be doing this anyway without having to implement a CAF? But it does help, and it helps with the future, because you have to have these things for the local education authority to move on. If you don't have these things, it's extremely hard to get the right provision.
The preschool has been really good. They set up their policies and procedures and got it in Braille for me. They keep me informed all the time.